Okay, so the new Ask the Devs episode just came out, and I'll start with the most important piece. The first iteration of it will be targeted to be released at Q2 2024, which is end of June next year. It will have live support, fire, engineering gameplay, repair beam, and anything that was shown at the CitizenCon presentation. So the first thing they talked about was that soft death is going to be temporary. So the current soft death system is where the ship is switched out for, I think, a dead variant. And eventually the target is going to be that the ship will basically, I think like Yogi said a few days ago, that it will just keep losing parts until it can't fly anymore. So it's a more organic system, similar to, I think, what War Thunder has. And here's something that conflicts what they said yesterday in IC, because in IC they said you could actually tow a soft dead ship to get it repaired. However, the guys today said that there's currently no location in the game yet to drop ships off for that type of repair. And that will be added after 3.22, which means not in the next patch in December, but sometime after that. Okay, then the question was, if a player uses a multi-crew ship alone, will it be harder to play than with crew? And the developer said they don't want to artificially limit it. However, there will be certain organic advantages you get from it. Like, you have somebody who can do the maintenance on the ship while you're flying, then it's going to be easier for you. And it will also depend on how worn down a ship is. So a ship that's in almost near complete new condition will require almost no maintenance, so it will be easy to use as a single player. Then they talk about bespoke repairs, because currently they only have a magic, the repair beam. And they're talking about bespoke repairs. They want to see if players are okay with the beam or if they should add bespoke systems. Then they talked about that scrubbers were part of the life support system, and they talked that subcomponents are still planned. However, the way they talked about it, like it's in the planning stage, so it's not anywhere near having subcomponents. Then they talked about military ships will have more redundancy, which means when they get attacked, they have more complex relay systems, so it's not as easy to take them out by just hitting one good component, and the whole ship is as they say, dead in the water. And manufacturers will add different alloys for the ship hull, which will lead to different weights of ship and I think different protection levels, which I think is part of it. And the plan is to make combat less about completely destroying a ship and more about making the ship lose items first, and then you're floating dead in the water, requiring repairs or rescue. However, still a quantum drive overload explosion or power plant explosion can instantly kill the ship. And now talk about airlocks and life support, and that system is actually quite hardcore. I was actually surprised at least from what they said about it. So they said that airlocks will cycle air, which means if you open an airlock, it will pump the air into a tank. Or if you open normal doors that are exposed to the outside, then it will just vent the air. And I think that's pretty interesting, because if you have ships that are like cargo ships that don't have any visible airlocks, like I think the C1 or the MSR, the cargo area, that would require from the player to, if you manage cargo in the rear bay, to actually wear spacesuits, or at least be aware of the danger of the outside. So I think the different ship configurations of how they're built more like as a living place for many people, if they just war cargo ships with almost no protection against the atmosphere from the outside, I think they're going to play very differently, especially if you're or if you just want to leave the ship. And the further thing they said is that individual rooms can be cut off from the life support main control system. So what was going to happen, for example, if that through battle damage, you lose the connection to a specific room, and each room has its own vent. So if you want to, for example, fight a fire in that room, you cannot just use the central controls to vent the room, because you don't have a connection. So we'd have to physically go in the room and do something. And air supply is currently still in open discussion how they want to handle it, but they made the following thing clear, is that air is a precious resource and it's finite on a ship, so it cannot generate it automatically by itself. And they also plan to have some type of air sticks that they can just throw in the room, I think, and through some chemical reaction, it will regenerate air for the room. And you will also be able to just land the ship on an atmosphere, any planet with a moon with an atmosphere, and open it, and then the atmosphere will rush into the ship. And it will actually depend on whether the atmosphere is breathable for you or not. Then somebody asked, how often will malfunctions in fire appear? And they said it's very unlikely to have that for fresh ships, which means ships with almost no component damage and almost no wear to them. And you can also manually reduce the amount of wear a ship takes by running items under 100%, which means if you lower your power plant to, as he said, 20%, you have a much lower wear rate than if you'd run it at 100%.